nui mai kako ina ho makamako mai kalahi ki a kalakau velina nui me ke aloha. Mahalo nui no ke ako ko ana no o kako no ka pono o ka lahui, no ka pono o ka aina, a no ka pono o ka vai no hoi. Ea he olelo no ea e kalele ana ke ko'i e pawai. A ka ua kani lehua o Hilo. Hilo where the rain moistens the lehua blossoms, paying respect to the life-giving rain of Hilo. As we ramp into Merry Monarch, we wish all of those participating good luck. Aloha everyone, welcome to today's March 25th, 2024 regular meeting of the Honolulu Board of Water Supply. Before beginning today's meeting, I'd like to state that our board is dedicated to providing safe, dependable, and affordable water now and into the future. At this time, we'd like to share a brief recording with reminders on public participation as well as virtual meeting regulations for board members as required by law.
Materials for this meeting under HRS Section 92-7.5 are accessible at boardofwatersupply.com/board meetings. The public may attend this meeting in person at the BWS Public Service Building, located at 630 South Beretania Street. The public may also view a live stream of today's meeting on our website at boardofwatersupply.com/live. We have been accepting written or oral testimony for today's meeting. Instructions and an online submittal form are available at boardofwatersupply.com/testimony. The deadline to submit advanced written testimony has passed. Testimony received by noon today have been distributed to the board members. We will continue to accept written testimony today through our online form. Oral testimony in person or remotely will be accepted during today's meeting. To facilitate as much in-person and remote testimony as reasonably possible during the time allotted, pre-registration and submittal of a written version of testimony at boardofwatersupply.com/testimony is strongly encouraged. To testify in person, please register using our online form or come to the Public Service Building at 630 South Beretania Street. We have a representative in the lobby to provide intake and further instructions. To request to testify remotely, please complete the online form at boardofwatersupply.com/testimony. Requesters will receive an email containing links and instructions to join the Zoom session. Testifiers will have 2 minutes to state their position. A timekeeper will alert testifiers when there is 1 minute remaining. Once the 2 minutes are up, please summarize to allow time for questions from the board. Then, make room for the next testifier. Board members attending any board meeting remotely must be visible to the public to be considered present and meet quorum guidelines. Board members participating remotely must also disclose their location and anyone present at their location during roll call. Meeting participants who are calling or video conferencing in, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. If you have a question, comment, or wish to enter or second a motion on an action item, please unmute your microphone and identify yourself before continuing to speak. If you encounter technical issues during today's meeting, please use the Zoom chat to send a direct message to our support team. Their names are listed in the message to all participants. To open the chat window, please click on the text bubble icon on the Zoom toolbar.
All right, thank you. Let's take a moment to take a roll call of the board members. When I call your name, please say aye, and if attending remotely, make the appropriate disclosures. Vice Chair Kapuspro.
Aye. Good afternoon, folks. I'm appearing remotely from my home office where I'm working alone with the door closed. Mahalo.
Aloha. Board member Jean Albano.
Present. I'm in my office alone. Thank you,
Joining
Chair.
us in the, thank you. Joining us in the boardroom, board member Jonathan Kanashiro.
Here.
Okay, board member Edwin Sniffen is going to be absent today. He's excused on travel. And board member Brian Andaya will be arriving a few minutes late, and we will have him announce his appropriate disclosures at that time when he joins us. Also in the room with us today, Manager Ernie Lau.
Aloha, everybody.
Aloha. Deputy Manager Erwin Kawata. Aloha. Board Secretary Joy Cruz Achu.
Here.
Manager Secretary Kim Kawai. Information Specialist Stephen Nordstrom and Wayne Maria. Also joining us by Zoom are Jeff Lau and Jessica Wong, both from the City and County Corporation Council. Okay, we have 3 items on our action agenda today. Item number 1, requiring board action, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on February 26, 2024. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, John, is there a second?
I second. This is Kapua.
Thank you, Kapua. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any corrections, additions, amendments, or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, please note for the record. Motion passes. Item number 2, adoption of resolution number 983, 2024. Acceptance of a gift to the Board of Water Supply from Hardware Hawaii, HH Holdings for Detect a Leak Week. Chair recognizes Kathleen Elliott Pahinui. Aloha.
Mahalo, Chair, board members, manager, deputy manager. We recommend the acceptance of the proposed gift to the Board of Water Supply, City and County of Honolulu from Hardware Hawaii of 5,000 toilet leak detection dye tablets valued at $600 in support of the BWS's annual Detect a Leak campaign. Detect a Leak Week will be observed from April 14th through April 20th, 2024. The goal is to raise awareness, encourage the public to conserve water by detecting and repairing leaks. According to the EPA, minor water leaks caused by running toilets, dripping faucets, and other household leaks account for more than 1 trillion gallons of water wasted each year across the U.S. Even small leaks can create a significant amount of water waste, costing customers money. One of the most common leaks are found in toilets because of an old or worn out flapper, which can build up with minerals or decay over time. We highly recommend that you regularly check your toilet flapper and replace it at least every 5 years, which is relatively easy, quick, and inexpensive. During Detect a Leak Week, the public can pick up a toilet leak detection dye tablets at any Hardware Hawaii store, Satellite City Hall location, or in the lobby of the BWS's Public Service Building located at 630 South Beretania Street. Or please join us on Wednesday, April 17th from noon to 1 at Tamarind Park, Bishop Square for our Detect a Leak Week event. We will have a booth and other activities there. We greatly appreciate the continued participation and commitment of our community partners and customers who support this worthwhile program that encourages all customers to embrace their roles as responsible stewards of our precious water resource. Mahalo.
Thank you, Kathleen. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair Kapua.
Oh, wait. Sorry. Got it for, yeah, all right. Moving too quickly here. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve. So thank you,
I
John.
second.
Is there a second?
I
Thank you,
second.
Kapua. It's been moved by Board Member Kaneshiro and seconded by Vice Chair Sproat. Madam Secretary, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair Kapua Sproat.
Aye.
Board Member Jonathan Conchero.
Aye.
Board Member Jean Albano.
Aye.
Chair Nalehu Anthony.
Aye.
Chair motion passes with 4 ayes.
Thank you. Please note for the record. Moving on to item number 3, adoption of resolution number 984, 2024, acceptance of the gift to the Board of Water Supply from the Center for Water Security and Cooperation for 3 fellowship positions. Chair recognizes Manager Law.
Thank you, Chair. I had the opportunity actually to meet some of the members and the executive director and number 2 for the Center for Water Security and Cooperation at the One Water Summit that was held in Tucson, Arizona last year. And there was a session that was, they had members of the previous cohort of fellowships that spoke about how to address ideas for addressing affordability, equity issues, and in the customers that are served by water utilities across the country. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to expose the Board of Water Supply to cohort fellowship members all across the country to discuss issues of equity and affordability, and actually come up with a proposal for a plan for the Board of Water Supply to address this. So I'm very pleased to announce that we have 3 fellows that were approved by the center, and they'll cover the total costs, including a meeting in Washington, D.C., air travel, lodging, and registration costs. Kathleen Elliott Pahinui from our communications office. Also, Stella Bernardo Bernardo, also from the Communications Office, and then Jennifer Elfline, Program Administrator for our Customer Care Division. So they'll be participating this year in this fellowship. So really, I would like to acknowledge the gift from the Center for Water Security and Cooperation. Attaches a resolution. The value of the gift is about $21,000 in total.
Oh, sounds like a great opportunity.
It is a great opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, board members, any discussion?
No
Hearing none,
discussion, just a congratulations to Kathleen, to Jennifer, and to Stella. And mahalo, Ernie, for making that connection. What a great professional development opportunity.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sounds great. Looking forward to hearing what you folks learned when you get back. Yeah, hopefully you get some time to go to at least one museum. I know everyone is on a tight turn when you go all the way out east. Any other discussion? I'd like to entertain a motion to approve. Thank you, Member Kanashiro. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Gene. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any other additions, corrections, or discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair Prospero,
Aye.
Board Member Jonathan Kanashiro, Board Member Jean Albano,
Aye.
Chair Nalehu Anthony.
Aye.
Chair, motion passes with 4 ayes.
Okay, thank you. Please note for the record. Also, I'm just making sure we don't have any testimony for the first 3 items.
No testimony for the first 3 items.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to items for information. Item number 1, update on the Board of Water Supply's response to potential impacts of the Red Hill field contamination. Chair recognizes Joyce Lynn. Hello, Joyce.
Good afternoon, Board Chair and Board members. This is your March 2024 Red Hill update. The non-destructive defueling at the Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility has completed. In total, 104.7 million gallons of fuel was removed from the facility, alleviating a large amount of risk over our drinking water aquifer. However, the risks are not all gone. There is still currently 4,000 gallons of residual fuel, 28,000 gallons of sludge, and 900 gallons of aqueous film forming foam that contains forever chemical PFAS. That's within the Red Hill facility, and it is planned for removal in the closure phase. Under the command of Rear Admiral Stephen Barnett, the Navy Closure Task Force will proceed with closing the Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility, which includes cleaning of the tanks, removing the remaining fuel, sludge, and AFFF concentrates, and decommissioning the 3 fuel pipes that connects the tank farm and the pump house located at the Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam. The following are PowerPoint slides provided by the Navy Closure Task Force during the Fuel Tank Advisory Committee meeting on March 7. Here is a schematic of what the tank cleaning setup will be like inside the tank. The solid sludge will be placed into containers and shipped off island for disposal. The wastewater from the tank cleaning will be collected and sent off for further treatment. Lastly, the 3 pipelines will be removed, and it is during this time that approximately 4,000 gallons of residual fuel that are stuck along the walls of the pipes and the joints that will be removed. Some updates on PFAS. As you may remember, approximately 1,300 gallons of AFFF or aqueous film forming foam concentrate was released on November 29, 2022. Following the incident, the Navy tried their best to remove contaminated soil and drainage culverts. In addition, this past September, the Navy conducted a baseline testing of 21 selected groundwater wells within their monitoring wells network. The Navy reported 4 exceedances to the proposed EPA maximum contamination level of 4 parts per billion, shown in the orange and red dots in the map.
Joyce, that's 4 parts per trillion?
Trillion, correct. Further review of the data set provided in the Navy's PFAS baseline report revealed that PFAS detection, there's actually PFAS detection in all 21 monitoring wells that were tested. And the Red Hill shaft was also tested and showed a detection level of 1.9 parts per trillion. Here in the map, the yellow dots represent monitoring wells that were not tested, and the blue dots are the source wells. So this PFAS data trend is interesting because it's showing higher concentration detections in areas that is far away from the November 2022 AFFF spill site, which may indicate there are past releases that we're not aware of in that area. We did raise our concern to Rear Admiral John Wade and Rear Admiral Stephen Barnett's team in our latest quarterly meeting in January, and have asked them to conduct additional regular testing at all the monitoring wells. It's important to note that the Board of Water Supply has been and will continue to test for PFAS and other potential contaminants in our drinking water sources nearby. And to date, our drinking water is safe. And in response to the PFAS baseline testing result, the Environmental Protection Agency and the Hawaii Department of Health requested the Navy to conduct additional PFAS testing every 2 months using their EPA method 1633. And they have asked the Navy to continue and expand their existing baseline sampling to all of their monitoring wells. And from the Board of Water Supply, in response to EPA's letter, we actually recommended the EPA and DOH to utilize all of their available options, including the regulatory agency's authority under the 2015 Administrative Order on Consent to hold the Navy accountable for the environmental contaminations it has caused, and to require the Navy to investigate, fully delineate, and remediate all the PFAS contaminations in a coordinated fashion, along with all the ongoing associated work with the fuel releases at the Red Hill Bulk Fuel Storage Facility. Last August, the Department of Defense published a report on its PFAS uses that are considered critical to the national security. The report focused on 4 critical areas of use, which was kinetic capabilities, which is like the ammunitions, missiles, and energy weapons. There's energy storage and batteries, microelectronics, which is in the process of making semiconductors, and casing and forging for metalworks. The report also evaluated the availability of potential alternatives and timeline to implement change. The DoD in the report recognized the need to phase out non-critical PFAS uses, so uses such as in food packaging, furniture, and personal protective equipment. But unfortunately, the report also noted that almost all of the critical uses listed above in the table don't currently have immediate alternatives, or it would take at least a decade to implement change in the industry. So in light of the recent PFAS findings, we are in discussion with the Honorable Brendan Owens to schedule a meeting to discuss what the next steps are in regards to the latest PFAS findings and the PFAS investigations. We will provide another update on this to the board once we have more information. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Stay right there for a minute. Members, any discussion? John?
Can you go back to the map?
Sure.
When we had the hits.
There's 2 maps. Is it this one or this one?
Yeah, that one's fine. So can you remind me what that orange outline is?
So the orange outline here shows the Red Hill Bulk Fuel Storage Facility boundary.
That's just like a. Okay.
Kind of like
Parcel.
the parcel,
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so where would our municipal BWS monitoring well, where's the closest well to this?
That would be somewhere around here, I believe.
Our Halava Wells, which is on Halava Heights Road, which is currently shut down.
Also, it's
It's
across the quarry or like the
Yeah,
industrial park.
just to note, our Halava Wells has consistently shown PFAS detections too.
And is it similar concentrations or?
I'm not
I
sure.
think it's very low.
Erwin, do you remember Halava Wells, which the magnitude of the detects?
About 2 parts per trillion.
So the lower end of the range of what they're seeing here.
I guess, my ultimate question would be, is there any correlation, or have you guys even started to think about?
I think that's, John, to be able to connect the dots and have a big, complete picture, it requires testing of the whole monitor well network that the
Yeah.
Navy has installed, and doing that on a regular basis. And we're asking it for it to be done at least monthly, if not bi-weekly, because that'll help map out what's happening underground with PFAS, the forever chemicals, which they haven't approved. One thing to note, you know, the red dots, Joyce, the red dots are the higher concentrations and the dark red is the highest. You can see the legend on the left, but they also have a detection in a Leomano crater across the Mauna Loa freeway, which is near the bottom center of the map here, yeah. But a lot of it concentrated around Adit 3 and Red Hill Shaft area. Red Hill Shaft was where they had the big spill of the fuel water mixture out of the AFFF drain line, almost right over their drinking water source. And that was the water that got into their Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam water system.
And Ernie, where the spill was, I know we toured it, but is that about where the deep red dark dots are?
I think so. It's in that general area. Yeah, and that's also the site of something called the oily waste disposal site, oily waste pit, which was in the past, this facility's been operating for 80 years.
Right.
They basically had a hole in the ground that was unlined. And as they were cleaning tanks and pipes, they would dump that outside at 3, which is the tunnel entrance to the Red Hill Shaft and also from the fuel tank farm.
Is that where the GAC is at current?
I
Is that
think it's in that area, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Joyce, you want to add anything?
Sorry, Chair, you mentioned if this was the area that had a spill, which spill were you referring to?
So the 2022 spill of all the AFFF, is it about where the dark red dots are?
It's actually in the upper added
Okay.
6 in the
Oh,
upper
okay.
area.
Yeah,
So, based on the fact that you're seeing some of these higher readings, I didn't read the letters that DOH sent out, but are they asking for more testing at the other monitoring wells? Or we're asking for that?
they're asking, I think, at all monitor well locations.
Okay.
But they're asking and they're requesting, we're saying that they should require the Navy to do the testing, but they're requesting the Navy to do the testing every 2 months.
Okay.
But we would like it more frequent and not be an option, to be required of
I
the
see.
Navy.
Okay, and question for Owen. Does this material have a chemical signature that you can like some of the discussions we've seen with TPH where they're trying to match if the signatures are the same? Does it have something similar, or are we not too hopeful in figuring out where this stuff came from?
PFAS does have, as a chemical, it does have a signature. It does show a pattern inside of the analysis, like any other kind of chemical. So it's all a matter of when they're all coalesced together, then you get something very complex looking, yeah. But that doesn't mean it's not necessarily there, it's there.
Okay. So over time, maybe we can backtrack and figure out whether or not.
Yeah, there's ways to separate it and over time kind of track and figure out where it might have been coming from. It's possible.
Okay, thank you. Maybe last question for Ernie. It sounds like, when we're talking about this larger monitoring well network to track the constituents in TPH across the valley, we're gonna need to piggyback on, right on the back of that, this idea that PFAS needs to be tracked regularly as well.
Yes.
Okay.
If I could add a few more points to, since I have the opportunity. I requested with a meeting with the Honorable Assistant Secretary of Defense, Brendan Owens. And there are 2 things that I've requested for this follow-up meeting. One is to talk about regular testing for PFAS in all locations that the Navy has in terms of monitoring wells, including their sources that are shut down for PFAS. The other one is also talking about the Army National Guard White Alba Gulch Training Site and Units Training and Equipment Site, or UTES, over in Pearl City Industrial Park. That has PFAS detections. They're moving now into something called the remedial investigation stage under the CERCLA regulations. And what in a recent meeting with them, and I appreciate their willingness to keep us informed, which is a kind of a breath of fresh air. However, what we heard was something was a little concerning for me, was that they were not going to follow the Department of Health's technical guide manual on the procedures for the investigation under the RI or remedial investigation, possibly incorporate sometime later. But I support what the Department of Health told them, which is they should follow the state regulations related to these types of investigations and do it at an earlier stage, like at the remedial investigation stage for that. So that'll be the second item for my discussion with Brendan Owens. I think it's important to understand what the full life history experience of the whole Red Hill facility has been over the 80 plus years. Their past practices of maybe cleaning and dumping of things on the ground, how do they handle or dispose of it, what types of leaks, what types of substances or chemicals used at Red Hill. I think the PFAS information is like almost like the canary in the coal mine telling us that there are other things that have occurred over Red Hill over life that we should be aware of. And now Forever Chemicals PFAS, it's, I think, much more widespread than they anticipated being in these test results in this baseline testing. I just want to point out too, in January of 2023, just a few months after the November 2022 spill of 1,300 gallons of AFFF concentrate, we wrote a letter to the Secretary of Defense asking them to test everywhere on a regular basis. I think we said bi-weekly, if not monthly. So our request for this regular testing and investigation for PFAS contamination in groundwater has been outstanding for over a year now. So we'll continue to keep on that drumbeat of pushing for it. And I think the other thing too is this whole investigation at Red Hill, that PFAS should be already covered under the 2015 Administrative Order and Consent. Something that the Department of Health, EPA, and the Navy and the Defense Logistics already signed. That they are under the category of other substances related to Red Hill. They should already start to investigate it, be required to investigate under the 2015 AOC, and not just do it under CERCLA, because the CERCLA process is long and drawn out. And it seems to me that the investigation into fuel leaks and contamination, it's happening like separate, like on two different tracks. One for PFAS, one for fuel contaminants in the environment, but they need to be coordinated together. So we have a complete picture, and it shouldn't be PFAS is on a separate CERCLA track, which is going to be 2025 before we see a report on the remedial investigation. Now, they should be going hand in glove together on this effort. And I think the authorities are there. We've written a letter to the EPA and Department of Health saying, basically saying that it should be something already covered under the 2015 AOC. I get off my soapbox, and that's my 2 cents.
Actually, I have a couple of questions for you guys. I know it's going to come up in a minute. So we kind of just blew right by the FTAC meeting, but there's been this this looming issue that I think is really important to not only the integrity of testing, but also the basic understanding of what has transpired in the last 24 or now 30 months since the big spill in 2021. That has to do with low-level TPH in the water. I know that I keep asking for them. The technical notes have not come out yet. They're supposed to be released soon, but they did have a slide deck, and they talk through some of um, the explanation of why there might have been low-level TPH readings on some of the tests, and whether or not the testing regimen was, correct in which one they chose. But do you have any comments on kind of where that ended up, and have you seen any technical notes come out?
Yeah, so just in a nutshell, they did share a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm sorry we didn't actually include that. I think maybe next time we can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I went through it. I mean, it's pretty detailed, and I think, to be fair, I'd rather have it with the technical notes than do it twice.
It might be actually good for them to even come before the board to share. They basically came up, they developed something called, pulled together something called a swarm team. So about 20 or so experts from within the military, and they also invited the DOH and EPA. I'm not sure what the DOH and EPA's role was in that discussion, but that swarm team came up with maybe 13 possibilities to explain the reasons for the TPH detections in the water system, a joint base core arbor. And I think one of our testifiers later will probably share more detail to that. It's amazing levels of detail. But they almost reached the conclusion that it was because of chlorine interference in the TPH analysis method. But they did not, they didn't put forward a consultant that spoke to that as a so-called expert. But I didn't see, and I asked them for where's the data, where's the science behind why you ruled out the other 12 possibilities and honed in on only the one possibility to explain away. And then, what's unclear too is if the Department of Health and EPA actually agree with the conclusion that the Navy seems to be already drawing and starting to articulate publicly through the media and in different meetings. I still haven't seen the data or the reasons or the science behind supporting that conclusion.
Okay. But I made it clear to everyone who will listen that we would like to see the data to better understand, I think. And maybe, Ernie, if I could pose this in the form of a question rather than a statement, like, we have people here who come every month to talk about what the contamination looked like in the Red Hill system, which we are not the purveyor of. We have now tasked, staff to look in on this every month at the board meetings. And, the question I would ask for you is, like, why is it so important for us, or purveyors of a different system, to have such great inquiry into this particular system and what has transpired over the last 30 months?
Yeah, it's very important that we kind of, even though this is not our system, we have people relocating off the military system into our system that are still complaining about health effects too. And it's really difficult to figure out why, but we know that even 2 years later, there is a Dr. O from the Defense Health Agency who was talking about still people experiencing and having a Red Hill registry of over 50,000 people in that registry, still complaining about health effects. So it's important to see what's happening here because it's what we want to avoid happening to ourselves, to our water system. And that is the reason why we still have a lava shaft, a lava wells, and IAL wells shut down. Even though we get a lot of pressure to try to turn them back on. But I think in light of now the more widespread PFAS contamination in the groundwater, this is a bigger problem than we think we had initially expected. And maybe something that even the military didn't realize it was this widespread.
Okay, thank you. Members, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Madam Secretary, we have a handful of people who are here for testimony today on this item.
Yes.
Okay. It looks like in person we have Susan Picola Davis. Aloha, Susan.
Hi.
Susan Gorman Chang. Aloha. And then remote testifying, we have Meredith Wilson and Jamie Simic. I'd like to take the folks who are here in person first. And so if it's okay, let's start with Susan Picola Davis.
Okay, while Kathleen is trying to get that set up. Good afternoon.
How are you?
And since you all started talking about the FCHAC, I did want to bring out some things that paying attention to detail is one of my things. So the chromatogram that they showed us did not have oil. They put diesel and gasoline, yet the low-level detects are diesel and oil. So there, and I am transcribing this.
I also noticed that they averaged some of the numbers,
Oh, whoops.
which was
What?
curious to me. Sorry, I didn't get you to the punchline.
So then they started explaining a sample and going through their chlorine postulation. And this sample starts with H3, okay? So that's part of AMR. And then he goes on to say, and then with the same sample, we did blah, blah, blah. And I know he said it because I transcribed it already. This sample starts with F2. It's a total different zone. So now I'm not going to belabor that because you'd have to stop me. So this is the presentation I gave. And, you know, I was already shell-shocked after Chris Waldron's presentation because I was just doing the OS moment. And I said, forget it, Susan. So what I did this time was I did quarters. And the reason I did quarters was because their long-term maintenance periods seem to have different dates. And so you never know really what they're measuring. And I had that aha moment of, well, let's just do quarterly. So this is quarter 1 of 2023. And it's January, February, March, and there were 19 detections. And it's TPHD plus 0, oil. And then this one is April, May, and June. And then here's the summertime where they were actually having a lot of complaints, but we weren't really, I don't know why I wasn't paying attention to it, but I wasn't. Because I wasn't doing this yet, I don't think. So all of these were detections between July, August, and September, quarter 3. And there are actually 89 detections. And Chris Waldron is talking about detections between 50 and 80. And if you look at my graph, the lowest is 105.1 and the highest is 256. And then he confused everybody by doing a map of less than 150 and greater than 150. So it just threw a snag in that. And like my brain's going like this. Quarter 4, this is what we've seen. Now this is January. And thank you, Kapua, for bringing this up about this. And I've even made it better. So D2 is all the yellow highlighted. And then D3 is the green. So the last time you couldn't tell where they were. So now we know based on D2 up here, it's Hickam, and D3 is Earhart. And that's what January looked like. February, is it January? Oh, that's December through January. Sorry, I skipped over quarter 1. This is January where they just started to have more complaints and they haven't updated any of their data in yet. So all I have is till the end of January. And I talked to Captain Sullivan and he's seeming to think that they're going to be doing things differently. All the other side I presented to you before, it's just a different way of looking at the schools. And you've got copies of that because I want to go into the CRI real quick, which I also put several slides in there, okay?
That question before you go to CRI. For either you or Ernie, did they indicate that they're gonna update based on their findings, the data in the website for Safe Waters?
I don't think they made any commitments.
Well, I mean, like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, about making it easier to make.
No, I mean, like, I mean, if
Keeping
they
it.
use the wrong testing regimen and they're looking at all these numbers, they're gonna update the actual data sets.
I don't,
Just
I don't.
reflect the new,
Because I think that was kind of related to the question, because if you're saying chlorine interfered with the test results,
Right.
are you now implying that 8,000 plus,
Right.
plus tests done over the last 2 years were invalidated?
did they indicate? that
False
they were-
positives.
Did they indicate that they were gonna invalidate them?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't think, because they haven't proved that the chlorine, it's still a hypothesis if you ask me, because we haven't seen the proof.
What's important too, I don't think we've actually heard that from the EPA and Department of Health that they
Right.
agree with the Navy's conclusion. So it did sound like the Department of Health was doing its own independent
They are.
investigation.
okay,
And I would assume probably the EPA is doing the same thing.
okay.
Okay, any other questions on the FTAC?
CRI,
Now we're moving to CRI. That was FTAC. Okay, oop. I gotta get this out of the way. I know me. My hand will move and it'll go everywhere. It's somebody in the head. Okay, so there were some graphs presented at the FTAC. Right? No, at the FTAC that I decided to dissect at the CRI. So Captain Sullivan presented this graph, but it was naked. It didn't have all the numbers on it. It was just plain Jane.
Mhm.
And so I said, boy, that's busy. And then I went to the Navy's website and I saw this graph, and it's called Average Total Petroleum Hydrocarbons, March 22nd to February 24. And I dissected that because I didn't like it. And then this is the percentage one. So I just wanted you to see the ones that didn't have anything, couldn't tell anything except for if your eyes looked at it, you would say, okay, we went up. Oh, look at how good we're doing now. Okay? And the same with this one. Everything is below here. And this is the line for 266. This is a single data point, and these here are all averages. So you can't mix those things on a graph. Or you fail my class. Okay, so now we're gonna go to the graph that shows the average. All of you, don't look at the first graph first, because that's where I fixed everything.
Okay.
So this graph here, what it's showing is the average parts per, what's the L, billion or billion?
Billion.
Billion. Average parts per billion. Averages tell us nothing. This is not the time to use averages anywhere. Averages work in some kind of data, but not in this. So what I did was I added all the raw data under here, so you could actually have a place where your brain could say, okay, month 1, they had a sample size of 897, detections of 174, and now they're saying, based on that, we had an average TPH finding of 65 parts per billion. So does that tell you anything? No, but it does look good. And I told manager or leadership that these are the type of slides that you show leadership to feed them the
Sure.
stuff. And I already talked about the line. I had to add all the data labels. The averages can never meet the level. And using the y-axis with the incident specific parameter right here, that's two different, an axis for this and this axis, you can't mix these things. So when you're looking at the blue, you'll see month 1, month 2, month 3, months 4 through 9, that's 3 months, months 10 through 15, another 3 months, and months 16 to 21. So you got single months here and 3 months here. Enough on that one.
Are they averaging those monthly interviews?
Yes,
So it's more averaging than.
yes. The only thing that they showed, I showed you the naked picture where it didn't have anything on it, the graph. So was this the average? Yeah, so this is what it looked like when they presented. Oh, no, they got this on their website. That's where I snagged it from. So I looked at it, I said, well, yeah, you're learning how to do graphs, but you still don't know how to do them right. Yes, I do talk like this all the time. Next one is percentages. So this is what the percentages look like. Everything looks like it's going fine. Oh, that's averages, sorry. Percentages. Everything looks like it's kind of doing something. And then this is where Chris goes on Hawaii News Now and says, yep, but in this period, we got 60%. So they brought in the swarm team. And now this little block here doesn't really represent anything because this interval, they're still collecting data. So on their sheet, it'll say in process, in progress. But there's nothing really there really yet because they haven't really gotten all the data. Okay, so this one, I actually put the actual percentages so you could see, remembering that the percentages here are 3-month periods. So they're doing percentages of percentages, and really the best way to do it is by month or by quarter. Questions?
No, thank you for the work.
Next. Is mine yet? Mine is next. Mine is the one that kind of made everybody understand a little bit. So I took their graphs and I said, how can I make this actually better? How can I get 3 graphs, put it on one graph and make it make sense for everybody that's looking at it? So I broke it down, and these are the raw data. So the first month, 897 and 174, and they said the percentage was 19%. So I added it on the sheet. These yellow markings, those are all the averages.
Right.
So what you do when you go home and look at this is you wipe that out because that means nothing, but I had to put it there to make a point that the averages do not mean anything. So then we go and we look at these first blue bars and the red bars. It's all raw data and it's all single months. But when you look at these and they go up high, we don't know how they calculated the 3-month period unless they added everything together, because this bar is 3 months, this bar is 3 months, and this bar is 3 months. The total amount of residences, 9,715, I put that on the bottom. And then others, that's other buildings, is 1,503 with a total of 1,218 places to sample. And then I put what they had called their long-term monitoring and what they were doing. So period 1 was supposed to be 5%. And then when they went to the 3-month periods, they were making it 10%. I cannot make sense out of this, but I'm putting all the data on the same page so you can see it all. So with the long-term monitoring plans and how they're doing the data, this was the best way I could show it to you given what they're giving us. So the website needs to be able to have a method where somebody can click on long-term maintenance period 16 and just grab that data. Long-term maintenance period, blah, blah, blah. But if they can't do that, then I'm just going to have to keep on doing it by month.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I mean, and I appreciate all the effort that's gone into this to try to make sense of their work, but really, the one of the most important pieces that's missing out of any of that is the max of 187.1 or 226.9 or 222.9, of what we're seeing in some specific places that are much closer to the 266 than what the average would have you believe.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. I follow. Okay,
That's
thank you.
the truth. The truth came out.
Okay, well,
So, any other questions? Please don't tell me I'm confusing anybody. Thank you, Jonathan. Give me a question.
No, well, this is like textbook, like what you're not supposed to do in data and statistics.
Thank you.
It's very, I mean.
Thank
it's
you.
remember what we've done.
Thank you.
What would be interesting is, as your next task, that I would be interested to see is if, instead of doing, the averages that you called out are clearly wrong. Maybe you can do a overlay of it's called a box plot. So a box plot which shows the median and the 80th percentile, or however, 20th and 75th percentile and the median.
And how would that help you?
Show the dispersion of detections across geospatial data.
So you want me to take the data that I have right now that I put in bar charts and switch it to a, what was that called?
It's called a box plot.
Yeah, or whisker plot or something. Yeah.
But no, I mean, to your point, like this, I mean.
Well, if you know data, you know that that's just
No, I
smoke
think
and
it's
mirrors.
like amazing.
I told Admiral Barnett, I said, this is what they give you to make you feel good. But this is not the data.
yeah, I mean, if we wanted a lower average of PPH, we would just do more samples.
Not really. You'd have to be truthful about the samples, because only if you use the raw data, you cannot change the percentage. You would never use percentage, right?
No, yeah, I mean, like, my point is that with the number of samples that they took, that's how they drew the number as far down as it did, because there are these high points, but there's only a handful of them, right? But it makes it look like a very nice low number, just barely above the detection level.
I have no idea of how they're looking at the data, okay? But the bars that went up was because they were using a 3-month interval rather than in mine where I do monthly. Then you have the exact numbers and you can see what's really happening across the months.
Right, thank you so much for your time.
Anybody else? Thank you, Kapua, for making my stuff better. Thank you.
The next Susan, Gorman Chang. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I just have a couple points, but before that, Ernie, may I ask you some questions about Wyava Road?
Oh.
I know I went to the town hall last year, and the last I heard, they still hadn't tested all the private wells, but it sounds like that's not true.
Actually, it wasn't clear to me in the last meeting that we had a working meeting, that they shared some information. I think the issue might be getting access to property owner permission. And also I think there was the issues of privacy of information, because if they take a sample, they might give a specific address. And I'm not sure if all the owners wanted that to be released.
I see.
That's what they claim, yeah.
So Bill, I think it was Hicks, the PIO for Jeff Hicks, for the Army National Guard. But it sounded like there was some privacy issues that they were messing with.
Okay, but they've moved into remediation or something?
Yeah, they're progressing through the SOPA process.
Okay.
From a PA-SI to remedial investigation RI. That's where they're gonna start.
Okay, the reason I ask is the Hawaii Army National Guard, out of their own pockets, did a water drive initially, and then my church has been providing water for the people down there. So I didn't know if the Army National Guard is providing water, or also the other thing is,
I'm
A
not
t-
sure.
Yeah, has there been like a town hall or anything to let people know? Because my contacts there are like, we don't know anything. Nobody's telling us anything.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. It doesn't seem like there's been another community-wide meeting.
Yeah,
Remember that first one?
Yes. yes.
Last year,
February of last year, yeah, 2023.
over a year ago.
Yeah,
But that's something maybe that you can, and maybe what we'll do is, I'll ask Kathleen to reach out to Jeff Hicks to see.
thank you. Because I've been,
Next community meeting,
yes,
like, to give everybody an update on where they're going. I
yeah.
think that would be good.
Because they've been left hanging for more than a year and we're trying to support them the best we can, just as a church.
Yeah,
Bring it
those
to you, not a
those
mention.
private well owners don't have board of water supply water.
Correct, I
They just have
know,
Water from a well they drilled on the property. They
right.
use it for drinking.
And one more question, does any, what is 1,2,3 trichloropropane?
1, 2, 3, trichloropropane.
Any chemists here?
Vern's gonna answer that question. That's beyond my pay grade.
1, 2, 3 trichlorpropane is actually a soil fumigant that was commonly used to take care of nematicide or nematodes in pineapple cultivation.
Oh,
So it's one of the major contaminants that we're finding in all of our wells in Central Oahu.
okay, and who's responsible for that?
It was manufactured by Shell and Dow Chemical way back, as far back as the 40s, and it was commonly used. It's actually part of a mixture.
Oh,
It was a mixture and something called Shell DD, which is a mixture of 1,2-dichlor and 1,3-dichloropropane and propene. And that 1,2,3 trichlorpropane is actually there as an impurity, as part of that manufacturing process. But that's the component that actually got into the water because it's not as volatile as the other two.
And who is responsible for cleaning that up?
Large scale pineapple.
Right.
Companies and sugar companies.
But they're all gone now, right? I
They're
mean,
all gone.
I see, okay, that answers my question. Okay, well, thank you so much for that. Okay, so, yeah, just on the Red Hill issue, yeah, the March 7th FTAC just really, to me, took us all by surprise. And I really would like that if the Navy would turn over all the data to Board of Water and DOH and EPA. And I know EPA at the last Thursday's CRI meeting said they hadn't received the data yet. And they also said they neither agreed nor disagreed with their conclusions because they didn't have the data. So I really wish the Navy would just turn the data over, right? And I think that would make it peer reviewed. My understanding of peer review is if you take the raw data and different independent people come to the same conclusion. I think that's what we need, and I don't understand why they're waiting and not giving everybody the data. And then also I also wish the Navy would take a more holistic view and maybe hire an independent environmental epidemiologist so they could look at correlations between, flushing the water lines, differences in water pressure, chlorine, et cetera, and other, things that an environmental epidemiologist would know to explore and try to find some correlations. And then you can look at causations because there may be more than one factor at work. So I wish the Navy would hire somebody independent and do that. So thank you. And thank you for, I understand this is not like your water line, but we're all in the same aquifer her, and what is their problem will become our problem. So, yeah.
Ernie,
I have a question for you, Susan. Maybe on that hiring, the Navy hired an independent epidemiologist. Is that what they call an oxymoron?
Yeah.
Maybe I was going to say Department of Health, but I
Maybe
Department
I
of-
think the idea is a good idea.
yeah, an environmental
Maybe
epidemiologist.
provide the funding. To
Yes.
State Department of Health.
Yes.
To hire the epidemiologist.
Correct. Yes. Just the funding should be the Navy, and the hiring and the report should be under Department of.
Right, so they control that whole study.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for making that distinction. That's important. Well,
Thank you.
moving on to, thank you, Susan, both of you, for your time today.
for both hyphens.
Wayne, do we have any remote testimony still hanging on? You want to start with Meredith Wilson?
Yes, please.
Okay, we can start with Meredith Wilson. Go ahead and cue her when appropriate.
Okay. Well, aloha to you all again. I'm happy that you guys have continued to stay on top of all the inner workings related to Red Hill and its ongoing threat to Oahu. That March 8th letter that Joyce and Ernie talked about to the EPA and DOH was absolutely necessary to remind them that they should be requiring, and yes, not just requesting anymore, anything of the Navy moving forward because of their past. In fact, it is correct that the 2015 AOC provides regulators exactly the authority to continue including PFAS sampling, and we should not accept otherwise. I too am upset that the Navy plans to not begin the remediation investigation until fiscal year 2025, and this is probably in part due to their lack of approved contaminant fate and transport and groundwater models. To my knowledge, I believe we are expecting one by September of this year to even know, what to expect groundwater wise. So since you guys are another water purveyor, we have a few technical questions regarding testing, because apparently now we're all organic chemists just because we had some bad water. But because something happened to me, I'm now, I can't let it go. And I won't, because other people can be affected by it. But number one, since the Navy officials have mentioned that chlorine in samples is causing peaks to show up in those chromatograms, why has TPH been detected in the pre-chlorinated samples from the Waiava shaft? At which point is the water chlorinated, before or after it reaches a shaft? Number two, the EPA newly provided a nice and simplified fact sheet on their Red Hill webpage showing what kinds of tests are being done in the different water sampling programs, because there's 3 different ones and it gets very confusing. De-icer or antifreeze, nor certain fuel additives are being tested in tap water samples. Is there any logic that you can see in only testing the shaft or groundwater for these things and not all of the end users? Number 3, in general, how does silica gel cleanup affect petroleum metabolite testing? A California Water Board has stated that it should be done without it in order to truly evaluate risk. And then last one, number 4, can BWS identify any other partially oxidized fuel-related degradation product to test for? Or they're also known as HOPs. Of course, if we didn't have to guess and rely on the Navy to originally show us what was in their fuel composition, we could have a better idea of what to look for. But I fear that we're missing important analytes, and some metabolites are actually more toxic than those parent compounds like the BTEX. There are attempts to diminish opportunities for this kind of public testimony, like we recently saw proposed by naval authorities for the CRI meetings. I heavily applaud the BWS board for reliably providing a safe and productive space every month where we can engage. Mahalo for your time, and ola ikawai.
Thank you so much. Chair, I'm going to ask my deputy, Ern
Sure.
Johnson,
You want to go through some of these now?
yeah.
Okay.
And Meredith, if there's anything we miss on your questions, that you have kind of 4 questions there, just let us.
Yeah, I know they're not really on the fly kind of questions, so I totally understand. I just want you to have what we're all thinking about, or at least me.
Maybe if you can repeat the first question that you had.
Sure. It was about the pre-chlorinated samples that are coming from the Waiava shaft. There were some that even detected TPH there. So I don't understand how chlorine can be one of their evaluations for TPH, because it was still being detected in something that was pre-chlorinated.
Right. Hi, Meredith. This is Erwin. Thank you for your question. You are spot on with respect to your point. They took the samples before chlorination, and they got TPH detection. So if chlorine was affecting that sample somehow, then how did that happen before you added chlorine? The answer is no. It's not getting affected at all, because when you collect the sample bottle in it has a preservative that deactivates any impact of chlorine. That's number 1. Number 2, and the main point is, if the petroleum hydrocarbon is reacting with chlorine, you should be getting chlorinated hydrocarbons on the back end. The analysis shows it's not there.
Right.
So this notion about chlorine affecting the sample is really not technically and scientifically sound. The second question that you have about the fact sheet and the icers and whether it should be tested in all the different samples, including the end users? The answer is yes, it should be tested everywhere. It should be tested in the water system, from the consumer's tap, in your water sources, everywhere within that system. And it should be tracked in a very methodical, organized way. So you collect data that gives you information as opposed to just, sporadic, random kind of way collecting data. The third question with respect to silica gel cleanup. Okay, petroleum metabolites. Okay, everything in nature does, to a certain extent, degrade, including petroleum. It does degrade. When it does, it turns into something from a petroleum hydrocarbon to a metabolite. A lot of these metabolites are water soluble, or what is called polar. Silica gel has a way to take that out. It takes those things out and it separates them between what dissolves in water and what doesn't, all right? But that article that you provided, or that paper you provided from the San Francisco Water Control Board is a spot-on paper. There is research that shows that some metabolites are much more, or some degradation compounds are much more toxic than the parent compound. And so you should be analyzing for everything like us. We don't do silica gel cleanup. We analyze for everything in there. And that's in all of the data that we've been monitoring since 2014. With respect to identifying other partially oxidized degradation products, the problem here is we have a very complex mixture, right? So that's the reason why you don't see the JP5 fingerprint matching up with the fingerprint from the sample. Is because the sample contains something more than JP5. It contains JP5, heavier ends, lighter ends. It contains basically a mixture of all different kinds. So you're going to have a pattern that doesn't look like JP5, and that's obvious. What you need to do is scientifically measure that, separate all of those different components from each other, identify them individually, and from there, identify which compounds are the major ones of interest to look at from a health standpoint. Now, this is an advanced technique. There are high-resolution methods to be able to do this, but this is extremely advanced.
Yeah, thank you so much, Erwin. I totally agree. I think that they're clinging to the thought of it's not JP5, it's not harmful, and that's just not true. And
no, that's not true.
Science says otherwise.
It's JP5 and everything else.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Meredith, for your time today. Appreciate it. Any other comments or questions from board members? Okay, and also, Chair would like to take the time to recognize board member Brian Andaya. If you could just state where you are and the appropriate disclosures.
Yeah, aloha. I am in my office alone.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you. We have one more remote. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And that is Jamie Simic?
Yes.
Okay. Admit her anytime. Are you ready? Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.
How's everybody doing tonight? Thank you, Susan and Meredith, for your amazing testimonies as always. I'm coming here. I planned on showing the graphs that I've been working on, but I'm waiting for more of the most recent data to come up, especially considering that I've been getting reports from Waikele, or not Waikele, I'm sorry, Waianae, Eva, and Kapiolani. And I'm coming asking if anybody has followed up on those reports with the families that have reported in. And if so, what are those testings? And also, Ernie, I asked you about the testing procedures that they were using in 2014, because like everybody else, I was gobsmacked at the FTAC of things that they're trying to say in order to discredit what has happened to the families. And over the weekend, I finally got the results of the water samples that I tried to hand over on island to the Board of Water Supply and also to the DOH. And those results, those results came back from DOH with 3 of my samples that I took to them under the cover of darkness in January, from December to the beginning of January. And all 3 of those samples, which they said they didn't have anybody else with samples like that, and it's very rare, detected with JP5. So I am wondering what tests were used in 2014, and if the families that are reporting off the water line, because I've had reports and I've tried to submit those reports to the DOH, the EPA, and others since 2021 of other locations such as Pequoy, Waikiki, Waianae, all different areas of the island, because I know I could smell it, taste it, feel it in those areas.
So just to answer your question, we are investigating the 3 locations that you shared with us. And maybe I'll ask Erwin to give an update on that, those investigations. So the water samples that you had, and this is kind of related to the discussion at the FTAC that I asked a question about if they had test results of water that was sampled shortly after the event, before they started flushing. And Jamie, I guess you had some samples, access to some samples. You took it up to the University of Hawaii for testing?
Yes, I was staying down at the Doubletree Hilton in Waikiki. It was right before our first town hall that our lawyer Just Well was having. And I handed those over the night before to Mikey Inouye, and Don just got back to me this weekend. They didn't have those samples logged, and he did confirm that all 3 of those samples did come back with JP5. And then I still have water here that I have saved and kept.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. If maybe Don could share the results with us later.
I can forward you the email as well.
Okay. Then we are carrying on investigations. Anytime we get a complaint, and we have been following up on investigations since shortly after the event, because we also saw people that used to live on the base move off base and still had problems, still experienced problems. So I'll ask Erwin to share an update.
Hi, Jamie, this is Erwin. With respect to the locations that you provided us, we're going to be following up on the one in Eva Beach. We'll be collecting a sample. I think we're scheduling it for this week. With respect to the one in Waianae, we don't really have a location except a street name. So the best thing we can do is just go to that street. We will just pick a house, collect a water sample from that area, and then follow up. So if you have any other areas that you're concerned us, send it over to us, and then we'll follow up.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Erwin, we're running petroleum hydrocarbons.
Yeah, so in our follow-up, we're gonna run, our standard 80-15, your petroleum hydrocarbon, looking for diesel, gasoline, and oil fractions. We're gonna analyze that particular location. We also will take samples from within the neighborhood, and concurrently, we'll go to the water source and take a look at them over there as well, so that we have at least a holistic look of everything at the time that the samples were collected.
And we're accounting for chlorine being in the
Yeah,
water.
that's right. The samples do have a preservative that take care of chlorine. And with respect to the water source, we'll be collecting the sample before it's chlorinated at the wellhead also.
Amazing. Thank you.
The latex gloves.
We're not
Yeah,
using
don't
latex.
forget the latex gloves.
Yeah, no, we're not using latex gloves. Latex
And
is a
then-
bad thing to use.
I know, right? Ernie, do you know what testing procedures they were using in 2014? And just to update you guys as well, Gemma did meet with her physician that was treating her in 2017 and 18 when we left the island and we were all severely sick, the gastrointestinal specialist, and all the same symptoms that she's having now, just more magnified and more severe. And she said that we were the unicorn that she didn't know what to look for. And she wished that this information would have been released back then.
Yeah, I know. Jamie, at the
So I thank
FTAC
you
meeting,
guys.
yeah, at the FTAC meeting, I asked the question of the Navy, the Department of Health and the EPA. Did you guys take samples and run tests for samples that were taken from the water system or the homes that were immediately complaining, people complaining about fuel smells in their homes, getting symptoms? Did you take samples and try to run an analysis on that? And if they did, can they share the results? Because right now they're looking after the fact 2 years later and trying to explain away the detections of petroleum hydrocarbons. But did you take some immediately after the crisis back in 2021?
They did it in my house.
And
They
unfortunately,
came November 29th.
and unfortunately, it didn't seem like they had, or I guess if they had taken the samples, and I hope I'm not getting this wrong, that they only tested for TOC, organic carbon, TOC, total organic carbon, and then they dispose of the samples. And that's where people after the meeting, some of them came up and said, I have a sample that they preserved in ice from back when. So, thank you, Jamie.
No, thank you. I appreciate you guys more than you know. And thank you for providing us a safe place and digging into everything that we send you guys and looking for the answers. Like we always say, there's only one aquifer, and this is for Oahu, and it's not just for the military families, it's for everybody. And water is life. If Oahu doesn't have clean water, then that stops all resources on island, because that water feeds the cows, it feeds the pigs, it feeds the chickens. It goes everywhere into the ocean, everything. It's not just people that we're talking about sustainability, and I will keep fighting and digging and sharing my testimony. If I can go back to other families that were reaching out in Waikiki, I still have their messages from the beginning, see if they're still in those apartments and send it forward to you guys. I will start researching that way as well. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you guys. The more
Thank you,
people
Jane.
see the testing happening, they'll come forward. They're
Thank
afraid
you.
right now. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Moving on to item number 2, for items for information, results of the sale of the Board of Water Supply System Revenue Bonds, Series 2024. Chair recognizes Kaliko Lumpy. Aloha.
Aloha, good afternoon, Board Chair and Board members. Kaliko Lumke, Assistant Waterworks Controller, here to report on the results of the sale of the Board of Water Supply System Revenue Bonds, Series 2024. Pursuant to Board of Water Supply Resolution number 981, 2024, authorizing the issuance water system revenue bonds, the board issued a total of $72,815,000 principal amount of Board of Water Supply Water System Revenue Bonds, Series 2024, dated April 3rd, 2024. The proceeds of the Series 2024 bonds will be used, 1, to pay for the cost of improvements authorized in the capital budget of the board, 2, to pay the cost of issuance of the Series 2024 bonds, and 3, to fund a trust fund to provide for the refunding and redemption of all of the board's water system revenue bonds, Series 2014A and Series 2014B. The bonds were assigned a rating of AAA with a stable outlook from both S&P Global Ratings and Fitch Ratings. The Series 2024 bonds were sold on March 12, 2024 at an all-in true interest cost of 4.12%. Net proceeds for the bonds of $54 million will be deposited into the BWS Improvement Fund for the capital budget. Bank of America Securities served as a lead underwriter. Raymond James served as the co-manager, and Oric, Harrington, and Sutcliffe LLP served as bond counsel to the board. This concludes my report on the item for information. Be happy to take any questions.
Members, any questions? Just a congratulations on the sale as well as the AAA rating. Again, is a huge testament to the work that goes on here and the specificity of how it is that you folks do it. So congratulations.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge Kaliko's hard work in this team and everybody at the Board of Water Supply that contributed to the effort here. Because there's a team effort to maintain our AAA stable outlook ratings, which was wonderful to hear again, and the successful sale of the bonds. So thank you. Good
Thank
job.
you. Thanks, everybody.
Good shirt choice again. This meeting. Moving on, information number 3, Water Conservation Initiatives Update 2024. Chairman is Stephen Neustrom and Lorna Heller. Hello.
Good afternoon, Chair, board members, manager, and deputy manager. We're going to go over our 2024 conservation update. And in this presentation, we'll do an overview of our water sensible rebate program. We'll dive into Water Smart, our conservation advertising, our rain barrel workshops, our calendar contests, and an exciting update at the Halava Xeriscape Garden.
Thanks, Stephen. Before I go into the various programs, this is a quick background about Water Sensible, what it is, how it's evolved, and the highlights. So it all began back in 2017 when we contracted with Honeywell and started the management of Water Smart. In 2018, we kicked off with the residential and the rain barrel rebates. 2019, we started the food service program in January. In March, we went on to the weather-based irrigation controller rebates. And in May, we began the direct install program. But due to the pandemic in 2020 and 2021, we put a pause on the direct install and the food service program for the safety and health of everyone. But as things began to open up, we also expanded Water Sensible in 2022 and launched the commercial rebate program, as well as a cooling tower and toilet rebate. Moving along to 2023, we then launched the Smart Water Monitor and sub-meter rebates, as well as establishing the Trade Allied program. So the residential program consists of rebates for clothes washers, toilets, weather-based irrigation controllers, and rain barrels. I just want to point out that last year we added the newest item you see here, which is a Smart Water Monitor rebate, which provides customers 50% of their cost, up to $200. So Smart Water Monitors attach to the home's water line and provides data about water usage and potential leaks. Eligible models must not attach to the Board of Water Supply meter, and they must also be Wi-Fi enabled and connect to a mobile app so that they can get some information on their water use. And some models can even shut off the water in the event of a major leak while they're not at home. So those models require a licensed plumber to install that. You may have noticed on the last slide, there was no amount for toilets, and that's because we have a limited time special. So before we increased the rates in February 1st, we began a 90-day rebate special on toilets rebate. So instead of a $45 rebate, we increased it to $100 up until April 18th. So we're hoping more people will take advantage of the rebate special, especially since the EPA WaterSense toilets use 20% less water than the toilets of the current federal standard of 1.6 gallons per flush. As you can see in the flyer, an average home can save up to 13,000 gallons of water per year and reduce water use 20 to 30% just by switching to a WaterSense toilet.
So our commercial rebate program, we introduced it back in 2022, where we offer rebates for our commercial customers in the kitchen, landscaping, and plumbing sectors. We also, back in 2022, added a cooling tower rebate where we offer rebates on different cooling tower equipment. We also started our Water Wisdom Large Condominium program, where we provide residents and building managers a free comprehensive toolkit to help them in succeeding to conserving water. That's mostly because many folks that live in condominiums don't pay a water bill since their building's served by a master meter, so water conservation is not necessarily top of mind. We also recently have been sending out water conservation letters to the top 200 water users on the Board of Water Supply system. We also continue our outreach to other businesses, condos, and townhomes. And an exciting update about hotels is the Ramada Plaza, which is, I would say, a small to medium-sized hotel across from Fort DeRussy. They actually had water guzzling toilets, 3.5 to 5 gallon per flush toilets. They took advantage of the Board of Water Supply's rebate program. They switched out all of their toilets to water sensible labeled toilets. And from January to March, they saw a 24% decrease in their water usage, which equated to huge savings on their water bill. So while we're happy, they're happy as well, because they love seeing that decrease in their operating costs. We also started our direct install on Kapuna for that are living on their own. So for this, we conduct water audits at their home. We look for any leaks, providing free low flow shower heads and or aerators. And if needed, we ensure that they are aware and getting the appropriate rebates.
Should make that a spot.
Oh, which one?
Hotel
Oh, yeah, no, we actually, regarding the hotel, we're doing a news release and we're going to be featuring them in one of the trade magazines.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
very excited
Yeah.
about that. 2023 was also the start of the Trade Ally program. So this helps to broaden the awareness of our water sensible rebate program. This was developed to partner with like-minded businesses that are interested in water conservation and promoting it with their customers. The Board of Water Supply customers can also take advantage of this by going to our website at boardofwatersupply.com.
So each month, Honeywell will provide an update on how the program is doing. So here you can see that Water Sensible has saved over 69 million gallons of water each year. We've also issued over 13,000 rebates with a breakdown of clothes washers, rain barrels, toilets, and the weather-based irrigation controllers. And all of this equates to over $890,000 in rebates. This is a snapshot of the actual monthly dashboard that we get from Honeywell. So the table on the top gives us an overview of the residential rebates for clothes washers, rain barrels, and the weather-based irrigation controllers. Each table will also let us know how many applications we received, how many rebates we provided, the amount spent for the incentives, the amount of water saved per year, as well as the lifetime gallons saved. So furthermore, it breaks it down to the cumulative numbers for each of the rebates, as well as the monthly numbers that you see in the last 3 columns. So the 2 tables in the middle are for the water monitor, as well as the toilet rebates. And finally, the table on the bottom is an overview of the commercial rebates. So we want all of our customers to have a positive experience going through the rebate process. So all customers that receive a rebate, they have an opportunity to respond to a satisfaction survey. So what you see here are the metrics for a survey, which also gets onto our monthly dashboard. So although our application states that it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to process the rebates, you can see from this table, it's taken 2 weeks to process the rebate. This table also shows that the overall rebate program satisfaction is 9.6, and 9.7 of them are likely to recommend this program to others. So we feel that the speed of our customers receiving their rebate checks is one of the contributing factors to this success. So WaterSmart, this is an online program that allows our customers to review their water use and compare it to previous years. It also gives customers recommendations on where they can check for leaks on their home or even apply for a rebate when they go online. This information is available to all Board of Water Supply customers, either on their desktop or even by their mobile phones. It just makes an easier way for them to check their water use and see what they can do for their homes. So here are some social media rebate messages that we have been using. So thanks to Kathleen, Steven, and the rest of the communications team, they've produced these amazing messages to inform our customers about the various rebates that we have. So just a few that we have up there. The middle is the weather-based irrigation controllers, and on the right is the rain barrel rebates. So thank you to Kathleen's team for the great messages that they put out.
Okay, this is a list of some of our upcoming water conservation events. So we have Detect a Leak Week next month. We're getting excited for our poster and poetry contest in May, and our big statewide event, Imagine a Day Without Water, coming up in October. And this slide shows some of our social media examples that we do. We just wrapped up World Water Day, which was Friday, March 22nd, with the theme Water for Peace. Detect the Leak Week is coming up. And on the bottom, you can see Manager Lau, Mayor Blangiardi, and Director Roger Babcock from Department of Environmental Services, part of our statewide Imagine a Day Without Water campaign. This is an example of our proclamation for Detect the Leak Week from 2023. We will have a new one. The city is working on one for this year. And the Mayor Blangiardi, will do a proclamation ceremony during Detect a Leak Week. And speaking of Imagine a Day Without Water, these are some of the water conservation event partners that we have. We continue to grow through our different city agencies, state agencies, and last year was the first time we had a large group of different community organizations like the Sierra Club, the Waianae Mountains Watershed Partnership, and many more.
So for the past 12 years, we have been partnering with the Hawaii State Energy Office and the state's Department of Health for the Hawaii Green Business Program. This is a free state program that assists and recognizes businesses that strive to operate in an environmentally and socially responsible manner. So this year we had 37 businesses that got recognized at the Hawaii Green leaders at the Green Business Ceremony. Okay, so in addition to our rebates that we offer through Water Sensible, the conservation staff, we continue to conduct rain barrel workshops. So since 2008, we've been conducting 4 to 5 workshops a year doing this. And although these barrels are not new, they do come recycled. We get it from Coca-Cola.
And some exciting updates at the garden. So February of last year, we reopened the garden since COVID to focus on our new garden volunteers. We had our first plant sale since COVID back in August of last year, August 5th. The garden is temporarily closed right now because we have some exciting upgrades that are occurring: re-roofing, painting, window, door frames, electrical, and lighting. And every month on KHON, Sherry from our community relations office, she does updates on xeriscaping and gardening, and we continue to reach out to schools, parks, and senior groups, as well as community events. And and our annual calendar contest. So this year, the theme was Our Water, Our Home. And we saw an increase this year with some advertising that we did with Hawaii News Now in the Morning. We saw an increase in schools that are participating. So poster schools, a total of 50, poem schools, 11 that have participated. And the number that have submitted, as you can see up there on the slide, 841 this year for posters and 312 for poems. And that concludes our presentation. We're open to questions.
Members, any questions?
Yeah, I do. Not really any questions, but I just really wanted to thank the department for continuing their conservation efforts, and thank you for the update. Great job. So I was wondering, part of the challenges I think that Honolulu is going to be having and already having is the aging infrastructure of the different buildings, the condominiums hitting that 20 to 30 year mark. And with that aging infrastructure, you're going to have a lot of problems with the water delivery system in those buildings, leaks, and having the need to replace. Maybe at some point in the next several years is something that we can look into and to incorporate as part of our water conservation program, because otherwise it's gonna, I'd hate to end up like another homeowners association that kind of face a situation where a lot of water was being wasted on a daily basis. So that would be great.
If I could just add on to that, as some of these buildings, I'm in total agreement with Brian, as some of these buildings look at doing different upgrades, some of them may have the space to do submetering, and it may make sense. You guys' point about just, having the ability to point to who in what apartment is using how much water, to more fairly articulate, whose responsibility it is, because I've certainly been in some conversations where, people don't care as much because they're not hit with that water as part of the HOA.
I'd like to address that, sir, Chair, if I may. A couple of things. First of all, we have a very robust program under Stephen's guidance where we are reaching out to AOAs and HOAs. In fact, he and Ernie have been out to Eva a couple of times already. We're going to be doing a town hall with Senator Gabbard this coming weekend, which I fully expect we will have a number of AOAs from that community, Kapolei and Eva there. But and then we have another one coming up. Ocean Point is coming up later this next month as well. The other thing is Ernie had asked both Lorna and myself to participate with the state in a program, that PACE funding that they're talking about. Brian, you're probably very familiar with that. It's funding for helping condominium for commercial do various retrofits into their building, and they're looking to expand it into the condos. So Gwen Yamamoto Lau has been working with us, and we've been attending bi-weekly meetings, and she's been bringing in speakers as property managers, and we've had some really good speakers recently to help us better understand, and Hawaii Energy is a part of it, as well as the city's climate change office is there. And we've shared what we do in the program that Lorna has put together with her team under Water Sensible. So we're all going to be part of that effort. And in fact, one gentleman came and talked to us about how they did the plumbing retrofit of 1365 Ala Moana. It's one of the oldest condominiums on Ala Moana. And it was pretty grueling from his description of what they went through and pretty expensive, as a board member Andaya is pointing out. So it was a really good exercise for us to understand the challenges and get ahead of it now. And again, we also have the sub-metering program under Water Sensible that absolutely we want to do more with. We see a lot of value. So we actually have started those conversations. So thank you for bringing that up in the public forum. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to add on that it's actually access to low-cost financing for these associations is important to be able to finance and spread the cost over time, lower cost financing. So yeah, what Kathleen described was the CPACE Commercial Property Accessing Financing Program under the Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority. So we're looking at actually partnerships with Hawaii Energy. So you go after water and energy savings. And maybe leveraging our rebates for both Hawaii Energy and Board of Water Supply, we can kind of buy down the cost for these associations to fund some of these improvements. So access to CPACE and expanding it into the residential sector, I think it would be very helpful in the future. But it does require the support of some city agency, budget and fiscal services in the process. So we are exploring the opportunities. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to see whether or not the case study for the complete swap of all these toilets in a hotel is something that can compel, to Bernie's point about like never mind saving the planet, like how do you save a bunch of money in over time in the cost of whether it's power or water or both in these in these settings that are at scale, right? I mean, if you get several hundred toilets in one of these places, it's like do it all at once and save a bunch of money.
Did you explain what we're going to use?
Sorry.
How we're going to take that information?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then on a separate note, I'm not sure if this is correct, but Lorna, did you receive an award, at the AWWA conference? Am I getting this confused? Last AWWA conference?
Actually, it's Kevin Ihu. What was the award?
Well, Kevin was the Pacific Water Conference, but
yeah,
I thought at AWWA, I thought it was Lorna, but
It was Mike.
It was at the Hawaii Waterworks Association conference in Kona. William Thompson Award went to Mike Matsuo for his service for the industry. So thank you, Mike.
Yeah, congratulations to all the awardees, including Kevin.
And Kevin E. who won the Fuller Award from the American Waterworks Association for the Hawaii chapter of the American Waterworks Association.
Well deserved, everyone. Moving on to items for information number 4. Status of update of groundwater levels at all index stations. Chair recognizes Barry Usagal. Hello, Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, hard to follow that. This March report is very similar to February. Just same 5 index wells in low groundwater, Kaimuki, Moanalua, Pro City, Punalua, and Wailua. The pumpage was 127 million gallons per day, very good for this time of year. Rainfall for February was 87% of normal, with the 5-month moving average of 84%. And the drought monitor shows abnormally dry conditions on the western side of the leeward side of the island. And National Weather Service is still forecasting below normal precipitation to June. I think their next forecast comes out in June, so we'll see what that looks like as well. Monitoring wells are increasing, which is typical for this time of year in the wet season. And if we could, yeah, thank you. That's the rainfall, and the 5-month moving average. And if you go to the pumpage, the February pumpage was a little bit higher than in 2004, a little bit higher than the pumpage in 2023. But similar to the 5-year average. So the conservation messaging and the program is working. So thank you to all that have been leading that program and getting the word out and providing our customers with the tools to use less water, be more efficient, save some money.
Yeah.
That's my report.
Thank you. Members, any questions?
Thank
you. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks.
Okay, last but certainly not least, water main repair report for February 2024. Chair recognizes Jason Mercado. Jason, how are you?
Good. Good afternoon, board chair and board members. The following is the water main repair report for February. February, we had 19 main breaks. That is less than usual, and that brings us to a total of 290 for the fiscal year to date. Of the 19 main breaks, 7 were classified as breaks and 12 were leaks. Here's a list of the 19 breaks. All were on small diameter pipe. And our leak detection team investigated 48 points of interest and found 66 leaks. So that brings us a total of 574 leaks found to date for the fiscal year. Of the 66 leaks, 5 were on mains, 41 were on couplings, 16 were on the customer side, and 4 were service leaks. I want to point out that for the mains to date, we have found 56 leaks on main lines, which were repaired as part of the previous pages on the main break report. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Members, any questions? Jason, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our regular board agenda today. If there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. We are adjourned.